First sip of coffee on the first podcast. How's it going, everybody? This is Larry, your pal. Obviously, the only people listening now are my friends. So welcome to the pilot episode of a series that I had hoped someday... listen to this. I actually thought that I was going to someday be a big, famous celebrity, and I would write a book about everything not to do in show business. Well, so far I'm still not doing the right things to get into show business, so I figure, you know what, why wait? I'm going to start writing a book now. But then actually, you know what, I don't have time to sit around and write a book, and I don't have time to blog. Are you guys bloggers? I got some buddies out there. You guys know who you are. Like to blog, you like to type. I think that's awesome. I have no time to read those blogs, but I do have time to listen to podcasts. And I figure you might too. Put it in your car, put it in your MP3 player, put it on your computer while you're sitting around, and basically we're going to play catch up with Larry. At the same time, for those people that don't know me, that are thinking about coming down to L.A. and to Hollywood and becoming a big celebrity, famous person, let me tell you some things, what not to do. And in fact, what I hope happens through the course of this podcast is that I'll be able to take calls via Skype from my pals that do work in the entertainment business who could tell me a few things as well that I could share with you. In fact, we could have some fun with this. So we're just going to get started with today's pilot podcast. Everybody know what a pilot is? If you're coming out here to be in showbiz, you better get ready for what pilots are. Anyone? Of course, everybody knows what a pilot is. So this is a test show just to see how it goes, and I appreciate those people that actually taking the time to listen to this. I've contacted a few of you and said, hey, if I do this, will you listen to it? And my pals on Facebook that responded, well, you are the ones who are going to be the guinea pigs. But along the way, while I'm telling stories about my failed attempts at showbiz, I thought it would also be fun to tell stories throughout my life involving you guys, because it's no fun just listening to me talk, but it's more fun if you listen to me talk about you, right? And so that way we can get the phone calls going, and you guys can call in, share some stories. We'll relate them to showbiz somehow, because for the last 20 years I've been down in Los Angeles trying to make it in any area of showbiz I can, off and on. I would not say that I'm the type of person that came into L.A. Just with a pocket full of dreams and just came in and just started doing everything and working hard and pounding the pavement, as they say. I didn't do any of that. I made a lot of mistakes, things that probably hindered me from making any advancements. But funny stories along the way. But we got to start from the beginning, right? Because why would anybody want to be in show business? Well, I never wanted to be an actor as a kid. That came later on. I was just fascinated with how things were made, special effects, any type of thing that was like a magical kind of a magical mystery tour. I would sit there and kind of go, how do they do that? I want to make that. That is so cool. And it would upset my dad, because my dad would watch. My dad was a much older dad than most dads. He was 46 when he had me. So by the time I was 6, 7 years old, pretty much he's done. He's on the Barker Lounger, and I was his personal channel changer. Anybody remember those those big Zenith TVs? I'm sure we all had something like that. Some of us had the TV inside of the stereo where you lift the lid, you look down, and there's the turntable, and then magically on the outside is the tube for the TV. I don't know how they worked it, but I do know that those things pulled the juice, because those things would smell, that smell of burning dust. That is a fond memory I have of electricity in the house. That thing would juice up, and the lights would kind of go off and on, and then next thing you know, the fire department showing up. So anyways, it all started with me watching TV with my dad, watching the old science fiction movies, and things like Them. You guys remember that show, Them, with the big giant ants? And to keep from being scared, I would try to figure out how they did stuff. And it would just set him off, because I go, Dad, I know how they did that. These big ants are actually big puppets on sticks. And he would just tell me to shut up and go, look, you're ruining it for me. I don't want to know how they did it. I just want to watch it and pretend that it's real. So please be quiet. So that was the beginning of me kind of wanting, a little taste of the showbiz thing. But really, it all started with music. So everybody listening to this podcast right now at this point knows that I'm a musician and I play the drums. And that was kind of the first thing I started to do. My dad used to, being an Italian, he was a gourmet chef, and he was raised in Los Angeles, but he had moved to Miami. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because he had some restaurants in Miami and very much was influenced by the Cuban and Latin jazz. So we had a lot of that. Perez Prado, if you guys ever heard of Perez Prado, he was a band leader, kind of like Desi Arnaz, and had a huge orchestra, but it was all Cuban and Latin music, and I just loved it. And my dad would play it, and I would just walk up to the turntable, peek my head over the top, watch the record spin, amazed that this music was coming off of that vinyl wax, and I would just kind of start dancing. And I started to, hit stuff with my hands, and I kind of had a pretty good beat. So my sister, who's 12 years older than I am, thought, hey, you know what? That's my little drummer boy. She was kind of like my second mom and always called me her little drummer boy. She got a Quaker Oats. You guys remember the Quaker Oats? Still think they're making them in that cardboard container. She took the Quaker Oats, turned it upside down, ran a string through it, put it over my head, and gave me a pair of chopsticks, and I would just pound on it. She called me her little drummer boy. And I would dance around and pound on there, and I had pretty good rhythm. When I got to be about 6 or 7, I really got into Motown and all that stuff, and the Shaft soundtrack with Isaac Hayes, and Diana Ross and Supreme's The Love Child album. Those two albums really, who knows why, but just all that funkiness and stuff really kind of got to me. Stevie Wonder, Superstition, all that stuff. So I would sit the pillows up on the couch, shaped like a drum set, and I would get these old drumsticks that someone had given me, and I would pound on them, and I would play the rhythms. And I kept begging my dad, Dad, now I want to play drums. No, you can't. No, but I want to. No, you're not ready yet. So finally, when I was about 8, he broke down and said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set you up with some lessons, but you got to practice. And the minute you stop practicing, you're done. So I started taking private lessons, and my first lesson was way over my head. I had no idea what was going on because this drum teacher in the town of, I grew up in a little town called Yuba City from the time I was 6 years old until I was about 19 was the last time I was living in the house. So in this town, we went over the river through the woods. Actually went over the river, crossed the bridge there to a town called Marysville, and there was a music store there. And I took these private lessons with this drum instructor. Wish I remembered his name. So somebody out there, I'm sure you guys can find out who it was. You know who you are, who I'm asking. I'll start naming names of people later. We'll just see who's listening. And so anyways, they set me down on this like practice pad drum set, and it was just like I couldn't do it. I was like, look, I just want to pound out rhythms. What do you mean I got to actually hit specific pads and do specific things? I don't want to do that. So he put me on a practice pad with just my sticks, and I took off on that. I understood all the rudiments and the drum rolls, and I had a natural ability. But for an 8-year-old to sit down on practice pads for 30 minutes a day was just beyond me. So I said, you know what, I don't want to take lessons anymore, but I want to be in the school band. Well, here's the funny thing about elementary school, and I think it's still the case today. You can't play drums in the elementary school band until you're in 5th grade. But all the other instruments you can go in when you're in 4th grade. And I understand now because it takes this discipline that, when you start playing an instrument when you're a kid, piano, guitar, let's say, even trumpet, you come home learning something, right? You've got Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle, Twinkle, something that is musical. Your parents go, oh, look what he did. Listen to that. So, drums, here's this practice pad, and I'm just making this racket, and you don't know if I'm playing anything right. You don't know what I'm doing. So there's more of a discipline because you're not getting that instant gratification that you do out of a musical instrument, let's say. So anyways, I quit that. And what I need to do now is back up a few years, okay? Because this is another taste of what got me wanting to be in showbiz. And 1969, September 1969, a show came out on the public broadcasting network called Sesame Street. And there are these characters called the Muppets on there, right? We all know who they are. Some of you listening to this podcast know where I'm going with this, but I'm not going to go there yet because that's 20 years down the road. But anyways, I was fascinated by these puppets. And the thing is though around my friends, I might have been funny or had a good personality, I was pretty shy as a little kid. So I was very mesmerized by these puppets because I could hide behind these puppets and do funny voices and nobody was looking at me. And I actually was pretty good at it. I really watched and studied how these puppets worked, and I was like, okay, look, that doesn't look real. And I would have friends that would pick up puppets and sock puppets, and I would just go, that doesn't look good. You know, obviously you're not watching the Muppets. You are not a Muppeteer. So at that time, because of merchandising, which is always great when any show comes out, they started making Muppets from the Sesame Street. So the first one I got was Bert. He was made out of rubber. He was not made out of foam like the real Bert. Actually kind of creepy looking. I had several nightmares as a kid about that guy attacking me in my sleep. So I don't know if that was a good thing. Because I used to contort his face because it was made out of rubber. I'd turn it inside out and I'd do all kinds of kooky stuff and it looked quite creepy. But one of the other characters, which was one of my favorite, which would not last today. I think they're still, you know what? I think they got rid of him. His character was Roosevelt Franklin. That's the character's name. And he was purple. And he lived in an urban area. And he was cool. I loved him. But because of just being politically correct now, they probably would not have a Roosevelt Franklin. I would not think right now. So anyways, I had a Roosevelt Franklin, which was a great puppet because he had a real big mouth that I could move easy. And so I practiced with him. I also got Oscar the Grouch. And then when I turned 9, they came out with a Muppet called the Anything Muppet. And it was almost like a real Muppet. It was the foam, and it was purple. And it had no face, no nose, with just a mouth. And it came with all these eyes and ears and nose and hair pieces with Velcro that you would stick on or with double-sided tape and make your own Muppets, like how they were on Sesame Street. So that's when I got the bug. And I really said, okay, I'm into this now. So it just became kind of a hobby. I was like, I had no idea how I was going to do this. And here's the thing. Let's back up a second. More backing up. I'll keep backing up until finally you're going to sit there and go, really? We're 12 and a half minutes into this thing, and really, how long is this series going to go? Well, it's going to go as long as I have friends to listen to it. Okay? So I'm not going to type all this up. I'm not going to write a book, but I figure somebody's going to want to hear some of this stuff. So we'll keep trudging away, and we'll make it more fun as we go down. But this is just the introduction of getting me into the showbiz bug, and I wish you guys were all here to talk back. See, that's the thing I would like. I would love to be sitting in a room. This is what I'm envisioning right now. Is I'm in a room with all of my dearest friends from elementary school and high school and college, and my friends that I've had in L.A. over the last 20 years. We're all sitting around sharing stories. Not about me, but you guys are sharing stories about you and tying it all in together. Because if I really did just do a podcast on how not to make it in showbiz, I could probably pound it out in one podcast. But I thought it would be more valuable, not actually valuable, but more fun for me and my friends just to kind of, take it nice and slow. So real quick back on my dad. So my dad was a dreamer. And the reason I say that is that he talked big about things he was going to do. Planning, he's going to do this. We're going to have this someday. We're going to go here and do this. And I, as a kid, you look up at your dad and you go, yeah, of course, you're my dad. You said so. Make it so, number one. So you just believe that is what's going to happen. And I was kind of like, all right, whatever you say, Pop. But kind of looking around going, I don't really see how this could happen because we don't have a lot of money and I don't see a lot of money coming in. But I will want to say first that my parents really protected me from the reality of their finances. They always spoiled me in the sense of like Christmas, I was never without toys and things. They always sacrificed everything so that I can have stuff. And to me, I thought, well, we're okay then, It wasn't until years later, of course, when you're an adult, you find out, as we all do, how things really were. But my dad was a dreamer. I'm trying to think of an example before we get too far into my years. Well, I'll make an example like this. About 11 or 12 years old. We're at Disneyland. And at this point, I was back to playing the drums again. And I just started playing on a drum set, and I was in a jazz band, and all this was going on. And we were at Disneyland for a vacation. And I'm watching this jazz band play in a little gazebo. And my dad walked up and said, you want to play with them? What do you mean? Well, you want to sit in and play with them? How would I do that? He goes, well, just answer my question. If you want to play with them, I can make it happen. Now, I'm pretty sure my dad knew I was going to turn green and run the other way. I was not going to jump up on a gazebo with a bunch of professional jazz musicians and just think I'm going to sit in. Nor was my dad even planning on asking them if I could play. But I believed him, and in my eyes, he could have made it happen. So, anyways, let's go back now to my dad being a dreamer. Actually, I don't know where I'm going with that. But that kind of rubbed off on me. Always had big plans. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Had no idea how things were going to happen, and no guidance from my parents at all. Being an older set of parents, they weren't like the parents of today where they went to college, had these great careers. They had these plans. It was kind of like you work, you do whatever you can to take care of your family. My dad was a gourmet chef, was a great chef, had his own business, but what happened was the pride got the best of him, and things went south in my 7th and 8th grade years of school. We'll get to that in a sec. But going back to the drumming, just like my dad said, you know what, I am going to be a puppeteer someday. I'll figure that out when I'm older, like when I'm 20. So I'm going to go back to the drums. So I went back and I started playing drums in elementary school, and I actually was really good, and it wasn't that really hard because you're just playing one drum. I wasn't playing the drum set. But my drum teacher saw that I had talent and saw that I was a little bit above average. There was a few of us that were above average, so we were kind of spoiled. And we toured the city of Yuba City. And the tour means we went to cafeterias and your local band rooms of the other elementary schools, junior highs, high schools. It was me playing on a snare drum and one ride cymbal, the big gold cymbal that keeps the time, the big ting-ting sound. My other buddy playing trumpet. We had a trombone, and I believe we had a sax and a clarinet. And we played Rock Around the Clock. That's all we did. It was like, we were like the Wonders. Remember that movie? That Thing You Do? We had one hit, and it was called Rock Around the Clock, and we went around and we played that song until we just ran it in the ground. And everybody was amazed because these 11-year-olds are just totally playing this great kind of rock and jazz piece, classic song from the 50s, and everybody dug it. We would get these standing ovations everywhere we went. And we were like, we were something special. So I kind of said, all right, this is it. I'm gonna do this music thing. And what was cool is I got awards for it. And awards, I mean, I got gift certificates to Baskin-Robbins. I also got, what else did we get? We got McDonald's gift certificates, things like that. You know, you get an award for outstanding achievement in music. I don't know what it was. It was something silly, but I remember I was very honored and very excited to get those things in 5th and 6th grade. And that was kind of what my goal was. I was going to be a musician. At the same time, I was very interested in how music was made. From listening to all those records, and I'd put on headphones and get a stack of records and put them on the turntable. Records, vinyl records. You know what's funny now is that, let's see, kids are going, what's a CD? Can you believe that? What is a CD? We went from vinyl to using 8-track to cassettes, then CDs and DVDs, and now we're at MP3 files, and CDs are going the way of the dodo, as they say. But it's just so funny. So anyways, vinyl, I would put like 10 albums on, put the headphones on, lay on the bed, and just listen, and I would pretend that I was in the studio, and I was the drummer in the on this thing, or I was the guy conducting, not the orchestra, but the guy pushing all the knobs, and how did you make those effects, and I was really saying, I was amazed at that, and I'm like, I want to make music. Okay, now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a puppeteer, I'm going to be a drummer, and I'm going to be the guy that records everything. And if I do all those things, I could do all kinds of stuff in showbiz. So still at this point, in elementary school, I was not wanting to be an actor. It still scared me, but the closest thing was being a puppeteer. So right now we're about 20 minutes into this podcast, and just for the sake of bandwidth, right now this is free for me to put up. It doesn't cost me anything, but if I get too far, if the file gets too big, and it could start costing me money. And I am never gonna. Why would I ever ask for people that don't know me to donate to a podcast or my own friends? Because this is just a test. This thing could be a big pile of crapola, and who knows? So let's stop right here. When we come back on the next episode, we will talk about me getting into writing Jim Henson a letter and writing to the Mickey Mouse Club. Oh, yes. Yes. And then we'll get into a little show called Portrait of a Drummer. Okay? Fun stuff. All leading the way, what not to do. Okay? And to get into showbiz. But at the same time, people, if you want to get a hold of me, here's what you do. Obviously, you guys listening right now are my friends on Facebook, so you know how to get a hold of me. But you can also get a hold of me at The Cave Studios at yahoo.com. It's thecave_studios at yahoo.com. You could check me out in my 15 Seconds of Fame on YouTube at youtube.com/LarryBoyLA. So you can see my one and only commercial I've ever done, my one and only voiceover work, my one and only bit part in an independent film, and what else? And my one and only music video. All right? And if you like puppets, you can go check out my friends on YouTube, Doug the Bug and his garden pals over at youtube.com/JackedUpPuppets. JACKEDUPPUPPETS. How else do you spell puppets? Not Muppets. Copyright infringement. Puppets. So you guys take care, and I look forward to talking to you again, and I hope this is something that can be a lot of fun for everybody. The more people that can be involved, the more special it is to me. So you guys take care, and we'll talk to you soon.